Genevieve Holmes. That means that I am a global digital storyteller. Tonight what we're going to go through is how I am a global digital storyteller and how that value resonates with Edelman itself. I was born and raised in New York City. I attended the United Nations International School for much of my upbringing, from kindergarten through 12th grade. I was taught to view the world through a lens that embodied the United Nations character. It was one of spirit, it was one of ideals, it was one of beliefs. My mother, she's the one that put me there. I like to call her a cultural, philanthropic explorer. She had this belief that she wanted for my education to promote a belief of the diversity of cultures, the diversity of peoples, the diversity of everyone. But she didn't stop there. In my short time on this earth, I have touched foot on 7 different continents. I have tasted 24 different cuisines, and I have tongue-twisted about 18 different dialects. But I've been touched by many. I would like to open tonight with a story about how I am global myself. I was 11 years old. I was at the peak, the prime, of my soccer career. It was my first trip to Nairobi, Kenya. I've returned since twice, as it is my mother's home away from home. We stayed with the Maasai, which is an indigenous tribe to the Maasai. My mother had a rule that until I hit 18, I was only to stay in third world countries. And with that, we were to live as the locals did. Clearly, I'm used to roughing it. But this experience was different. I was not used to roughing it this emotionally and this young. I awoke that morning to the pitter-patter of shoeless toes playing in the dirt outside of my rondavo. A rondavo is a hut. It is a dome hut with reeds that roof your head. I slipped on my sneakers and I walked outside. And I saw children playing a game that I was very familiar with. They were playing soccer. Except they didn't have shoes on their toes. They didn't have any water. They were drinking out of barrels of brown water. The ball? It couldn't have been called a ball. It was a bunch of rags that were wrapped up into a spherical shape of twine. But they were happy. They were having such a great time. And I can't quite explain what happened to me in that moment. I sat there and my face flushed. I felt feverish. My throat was as rough, as dry as sand. And I started crying. I couldn't wrap my 11-year-old mind around the fact that just a short plane ride away, there were children that didn't have anything that my peers had. I was used to having cleats, shin guards, a uniform, geez, even a ball that I could hip around, let alone the chilled Gatorade that was waiting for me on the plush sideline as I took a timeout. And there I stood looking at these children, 11 years of age, and I couldn't understand, I couldn't fabricate how they were having such a wonderful time. They were having more fun than I think I've ever had playing a sport. So I returned to New York. I passed on this story with a bunch of my peers, and they were equally as moved as I was. We started a collection. This collection, I can't tell you the dollar amount that we built up, but I would say probably about $200. The proceeds went to my mother, who went to the Sports Authority and bought soccer balls, socks, and miscellaneous other items. She sent them back to our former Kenyan hosts, and we didn't hear back. To be expected. About 3 years later, I returned with my mother. We went back to the same village, and we were ironically escorted right back to the exact same rondavo. And what was sitting outside on that step? A 3-year-old American soccer ball. I am global. I began my digital career here in Washington, D.C. I attended American University from 2008 to 2012, where I studied public communication and minored in marketing. This is where I got my foundation for my interpersonal, digital, and traditional communication skills. From there on forth, I advanced to Georgetown University, where I am currently in the process of receiving my master's. I am currently studying corporate communications and public relations. In my time here in Washington, D.C., I have entered at a multitude of different organizations and companies, starting with QR codes to recruit Navy SEALs, and a rebranding campaign for a local holistic health counselor, to tracking and monitoring for an up-and-coming record label. My internship experience has been exclusively digital. I am on Facebook. I am on LinkedIn. I am on Twitter, I am on YouTube, I am on Pinterest, I am on you name it, I am there. I am digital. If you don't believe my digital determination, I suggest you go to www.genevieveholmes.com, because I am digital. My most inspiring experience in my professional career was actually here at Edelman. I was working as a digital public affairs intern, specific to the Chevron account. My mentor at the time was Andre Carter, and he would let me sneak into some senior calls with the client so that I could get a little bit more of a sneak peek into what you guys are all about. On one of these calls, the client had given a situation. They were frustrated at the fact that we were not leveraging their Flickr account. They wanted to find a way to push this branded platform so that people knew who Chevron was and were able to see the imagery behind it. I pulled out my pen and paper. I scribbled Instagram, question mark. I showed it to Andre. He smiled, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. When the conference call was over, he said to me, Jen, if you think that you can come up with a way that we could use Instagram and you can convince the client of this, by all means, be my guest. I had a week to draft a POV, which I did. I decided to use the fact that there's a commonly used hashtag called Throwback Thursday. If you all are unaware, you're welcome to read through this portfolio. What I decided would be a great idea was to take Throwback Thursday and change the narrative. So Chevron is actually an innovatively historical company. They've done a lot in their time on this earth. Granted, this was in the wake of a lot of environmental issues. Okay, many environmental issues. So we needed to figure out a path to shift that narrative. That path was the hashtag Throwback Thursday. So I pitched it. I drafted a POV. I gave it to Andre a week later, and he looked at me and said, this is great. He didn't edit it. He passed it straight on to the client, and it was approved. This was my biggest success in my entire professional career to date. To not only be validated by a peer, a superior, a mentor, someone I looked up to, but to be able to successfully as an intern extend a client's budget. That was something that I had never heard be done before. Not only that, but I was able to tell a story, a positive story about Chevron's narrative that no one had heard yet. I'm a storyteller. I would like to go into some other things in concern to being a global digital storyteller. I am competitive. My peers' performance is the ultimate yardstick. I'm an achiever. I am fueled by new tasks, new challenges, and long hours. I aspire to be significant. It is the theme that keeps me reaching. I am positive. I inject passion and energy and celebration into each and every project. And finally, if you couldn't tell, I'm futuristic. I am invigorated, I am motivated, I am impassioned by this prospect of a better product, a better team, a better life, but moreover than anything else, a better world. I would like to close tonight with giving you the value that I can provide you at Edelman. As a global digital storyteller, I provide effective, measurable engagement with creative connectivity and budget building results. I would like to thank you very much for your time tonight. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about this global digital storyteller, or even shoot me an email, please don't hesitate and type in www.genevieveholmes.com.